Hello everyone. Today I want to give a short demo of the Genius Yield MCP server that I've been developing over the last couple of days. It's still in very early stage and it's very rough around the edges, but nevertheless it's publicly available. So if any of you wants to give it a spin and give it a try, then I want to explain in this video how you can connect to it and what you can do with it. But before we get to the demo, I should explain what MCP actually means. So MCP stands for Model Context Protocol, and it's a universal way for AIs, LLMs like ChatGPT or Google's Gemini or Anthropic's Claude to connect to the outside world. Until very recently, at most 1 or 2 years ago, the only way to interact with an LLM, a large language model, was via text, via chat. So the large language model was almost like a brain in a jar, and it only had this one connection to the outside world, a text channel, where it received input from the user and could reply via text. And its knowledge was static. So during training, it learned a lot about the history of the world, and it read Wikipedia and got immense amount of data, but there was a cutoff date. And the model wasn't aware of anything that happened after this cutoff date. And it had no way of getting up-to-date information. So its knowledge was sort of frozen in time. And that changed when MCP servers were introduced. So MCP servers allow an LLM, any LLM, to connect to the outside world. So that can be read-only, a data source. So an LLM can, for example, connect to a database, or it could allow it to do web search so that it is able to get acquainted with current events. But it's not restricted to just acquiring data. An MCP server can also provide tools to manipulate the world. So for example, an MCP server could connect an LLM with a robot arm and allow the LLM to perform actions in the real world. Which brings us to the Genius Yield MCP server. The purpose of the Genius Yield MCP server is to allow LLMs like ChatGPT to interact with the Genius Yield DEX. To what end, you may ask? Well, I remember some years ago when I first met Laurent and he shared his vision for Genius Yield with me. There were two things he was really passionate about. One was to make DeFi accessible to everyone. He felt that it was overly complicated and was only really usable by people with some sort of financial background. He felt it was complicated and confusing, and it blocked a lot of people from participating. And he dreamed of a more easy to use and intuitive user interface. And the second thing he was passionate about was to use AI to make it easier for people to manage the assets and make profitable trades and gain yield and just make use of all the opportunities that DeFi offers. And I feel that the Genius Yield MCP server is one important step in that direction. By using LLM to interact with the DEX, all the complexity and the technical jargon are hidden from the user. So it's possible to just use normal, natural, plain English or whatever language the LLM understands to interact with the DEX, to get information from the DEX, to place orders, to fill orders, and so on. So that certainly makes it much more intuitive to actually do things on the DEX and trade on the DEX. It also helps with the second part of Laurent's vision to use AI to manage funds more efficiently. I personally am not sure whether AI is already smart enough to do that right now, but the beauty of it is that it doesn't have to be. AI becomes better every day. Every day we hear on the news that a new smarter model has been released. And seeing as this MCP server is in place now, we can profit from that. The MCP server itself is model agnostic. It's just a connector, the connector that connects the DEX with LLMs. So each time there's a better model, a smarter model, this means that chances that you can get the model to recommend profitable trades and smartly manage your funds increase. However, even though that may still be a couple of months away in the future, the first part, the intuitive user interface, is definitely here right now, and I'm going to demonstrate that now. I'm going to use ChatGPT for this demo. First of all, because I'm most familiar with ChatGPT, and secondly, because quite recently it got very nice support for integrating custom MCP servers. But as I said before, MCP servers are not just an OpenAI ChatGPT thing. Other LLMs like Gemini or Claude also know how to connect to MCP servers. So the first thing, if you want to try it out, that you need to do is go to your settings and activate developer mode. So settings, then connectors, all the way down, advanced settings, and switch on developer mode. Now we are able to add the Genius Yield MCP server. So here are like standard connectors, GitHub, Google Drive, Gmail, and so on. But because of this developer mode, I can now add a custom connector. And as we see here, I have to configure it. And as an icon, I choose the Genius Yield logo. Then I have to give it a name. I pick Genius Yield, GY. A description. I say interacts with the Genius Yield DEX on Cardano. Authentication we don't need. Trusted application. And now we need the URL. As you can see, the URL is not very pretty, but I just wanted to get something up and running quickly. I will ask Attila, our DevOps, to deploy this on one of our Genius Yield servers as soon as he's not too busy. As you can see here, it's this cryptic 52.40.223.7 nip.io and then stake address /MCP. Actually, the stake address is not needed. You can also leave that out, but then you only have read-only access to the DEX. So you can check open orders and you can look up token prices and so on, but you can't trade. So it's more interesting to provide your stake address. So I have to look up mine and then I can continue setting up the connector for ChatGPT. At the moment, the MCP server only supports the Eternal browser-based wallet. And in Eternal, if you are on your homepage, you can find your stake key here. So let me just copy that. So I just need to insert my copied stake key here. Then I can click Create. And that's it. And actually it appears here now in the list of the other connectors. And I can click on this and even see the tools it supports at the moment. Now, if you actually want to try it, you must be in developer mode. And for some reason, you have to pick developer mode again. And then here at Add Sources, the new source is displayed now. And you can activate it. And now it should be connected. So we can, for example, start by asking for our balance. So ChatGPT has actually found this connector and has read the documentation of the connector and has found out what tools are supported. And in particular, it has seen that there is a get balance tool. And the way it works in ChatGPT at the moment to keep everything secure is that whenever ChatGPT wants to call a new tool on a custom connector, you have to explicitly confirm that. But you can click here to make it remember So next time it wants to use the get balance tool, it won't ask for confirmation again. And we see all I have in this wallet at the moment are 20 ADA. And the tool has reported that, and ChatGPT correctly interpreted the result of the tool. If you're curious, you can see what the response was and then displays it in a nice way. Now to demonstrate interaction with the DEX, let's say I want to buy the Genius X token. Let's say I want to buy, I don't know, 1,500 Gens X. There's another tool, not get balanced this time, normalized token. So the reason is I said Gens X, but of course on the blockchain tokens are identified by their policy ID and token name. So this normalized token ref tool is used to help ChatGPT to find out the policy ID and token name. And yet another tool, market by quantity. So that's for creating market orders. And it correctly says, I want to buy this. So this is Gens X, now in the form policy ID token name. It says I want to buy 1,500 Gens X. Unfortunately, this fails, and ChatGPT says the reason is that I don't have enough funds in my wallet. However, 20 ADA should be more than enough to pay for 1,500 Gens X. So at this point, I stopped the recording and investigated, and then I realized that because the wallet was brand new, I had only once sent 20 ADA there. So there was only a single UTXO, and I think that caused the problems. So I just sent another 10 ADA to the wallet and then gave the same prompt again. So just asked ChatGPT to try again to place this market order. And the next time it succeeded. And to keep it secure, I have to sign with my wallet. Maybe later there will be a power user mode that allows the LLM to take control of funds directly. But to start with, I wanted to keep it as secure as possible. So instead of just doing the transaction, the MCP server returns a link where I can sign the transaction. And that also gives me a chance to check it. Okay, here's the SIBO of the unsigned transaction. Now I can click sign and submit with Eternal. And I see I will get 1,500 gens and I will pay 2.6 ADA. So let's sign that. And it was submitted. So I can close this now. And now I see, so I started with 30 ADA because as I said, I sent myself another 10 to have more than just one UTXO. And now I also have 1,500 gens. And as you see, ChatGPT even offers to track things. So quite recently, I think it got this capability to schedule things. So for example, I could ask it to, in regular intervals, go on the DEX and check whether there are profitable orders to be had. Right, that's the end of this little demo. I hope some of you will try it out and have fun. And as I said, there will probably still be lots of bugs and functionality is still quite restricted and it's very rough around the edges. But I felt it would be a good idea to share it at this point to get some feedback. I'm very excited about this feature. I think it's what Genius Yield was always about, making it as easy as possible for everybody to participate in DeFi. And I can't wait to see what this tool will develop into in the future and what it will be used for. Thank you very much.